What's up, guys? It's your boy Michigander Man, and today I am in Marshall, Michigan, and I'm here to see the Magic Museum, but I feel so alone, and I need to have my partner drive. My bratty brother's got to be here, so I know a little tiny bit of magic. So I'm gonna focus, get buddy out of bed, and buggy. Ready?
Oh, what the heck? What the hell? What the heck am I? Rob, what the heck? Marshall? What are we doing at Marshall?
I thought you'd want to join the Magic Museum with me.
Sounds cool to me. Let's go.
Let's go.
Detroit area, worked for Hearst Corporation as a writer. Driving through Marshall, saw this building. It was for sale. It had previously been a bakery. It's well over 100 years old, so it's been many, many things. They bought it. Took 2 years to completely renovate it, move everything over here, get their own condo in Marshall, and they opened it on April 1st, 1970.
Wow, been here that long.
Yes. Yeah, we're going into our 42nd year. Houdin. And that's about as French as my accent's ever going to get. He was a Frenchman, Paris. Originally, he was the son of a clockmaker. He was a clockmaker himself. And he built clocks. You can see one of them right there, which is not one of his more famous ones. He built some incredible ones. When he was early 20s, he ordered a couple of books on clockmaking, and the bookstore made a mistake. He went down, picked them up. They were in brown paper wrapping. Took them home, opened them back up, and discovered they were books on magic instead of clockmaking. Robert-Houdin started reading them, became interested, and became a magician. Today we consider Jean-Eugène Robert-Houdin the father of modern magic. Now, he was a good magician. He was even a great magician. His skill as a clockmaker translated very well over to magic. But that's not why he's the father of modern magic. He's the father because he changed the way magic was performed. In the early 1800s, prior to that, magic was a street performance. People would dress as wizards or clowns and perform at fairs or on the street. And more importantly, the early magicians wanted people to believe that they had supernatural powers. Robert-Houdin came along and he said, no, I'm a gentleman. I'm going to dress like a gentleman. I'm going to perform in parlors and eventually on the stage. He had his own theater in Paris. And more importantly, his most famous quote is a definition of what a magician is. A magician is an actor playing the role of a magician. In other words, we're pretending. It's not real. He changed magic from a con game, from a street performance, into theater. He was so incredibly well thought of that in 1893, a young magician named Eric Weiss had just read his autobiography and was looking for a stage name. And he says, I want to be like Houdin. Somebody says, well, if you add an I onto the end, that will mean like Houdin.
Houdini.
And he became Harry Houdini.
Harry Houdini.
That's right.
If you turn around, This is our Harry Houdini.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Milk jug.
That is his milk can escape, one of only 3 ever made. And a picture of him with it down below it.
Wow.
They would bring that out on stage, they would fill it with water. He would get in it, they would put the lid on, put all those padlocks on it, and they would bring a screen and put it out in front of him. Several minutes would go by, and then all of a sudden the screen would be cast aside and Houdini would be standing there dripping wet, with the locks all still intact.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of his paraphernalia. The packing case there was one that they used to seal him and throw him in the river.
Yeah, I remember seeing the
publicity.
movie they talked about that. Yeah, because there was one time he almost didn't make it out.
Well, yeah, that's movie.
Oh, really? That wasn't
Never
true?
really. Although they didn't make it up, Houdini made it up. It was in his diary. But the meteorologists will tell you the Detroit River never froze over. We sent the milk can out on tour with other museums a couple of years ago, and one of them built this over to the right here, the little green thing. That is the exact dimensions of the inside of the milk can.
Oh, right there, behind you.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
wow.
dimensions
You crawl in
of the
there
milk
and feel what it's like to be Houdini.
You actually crawl in there and feel like it's a Harry Houdini.
Harry Houdini was only 5'4", 5'5", so he's a very small man. A lot of people cannot fit in there.
There's no way I could fit in there.
Yeah, I've never
You
tried.
don't think you can fit in there?
No.
We can squeeze you in there. Hold you up like a Twinkie.
October 31st, 1926, in Detroit.
Oh, Detroit, yeah.
In fact, we have a brick over here from his last performance.
Oh, this here?
No, right over here. This is the Garrett Theater. It's been torn down since then. That was the last place.
Oh,
He ever performed.
that's where he died at.
Well, he died in the story, but I didn't commit it to memory.
I'm sure that's probably
That's
worth a lot.
like something irreplaceable.
I mean, how much would
Wow.
that go for today?
No idea.
Probably
That's
millions. wouldn't it?
Millions.
That's just incredible.
That is just so. It's like the same condition as it looked like in that picture there.
Pretty close. I mean,
Did
there have been some dings on it.
Right.
has there been any like restoration on here, or is
No,
it like
we don't generally restore something that lowers the value.
right?
Well, it used to be right here. You can see something used to be right here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Probably
Do
got
they know what
dropped.
that was?
Probably got dropped or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just looks like there was like a sticker or something that used to be there. Maybe his name or something.
Maybe they didn't really have stickers back then.
Well, just so you can see where it looks like almost like wording and then this little symbol
Yeah.
right there. So I'm like wondering if maybe that he had painted on there Houdini or something.
What is this thing?
Yeah, what's this big cylinder right here?
That was Blackstone's imitation, if you will, of the milk cans.
Milk can? Oh, it's a lot bigger.
Fill that with water, and he'd have to escape from it. I don't know a whole lot about it.
So Blackstone escaped from this.
Yeah.
Harry Blackstone. That's so cool.
Yeah, I always wanted to learn magic. I had a math teacher in He used to do magic with us all the time. He used to flip us out. He would do that.
Chavez passed away. He split it up. He gave it to one guy on the East Coast and one guy on the West Coast. The East Coast guy was a guy named Neil Foster, who lived in Colon for years, working for Abbott's. Neil taught the Chavez class of prestidigitation to lots and lots of people here. I know dozens of people who went through his school. The props here was given to us last year by a old guy, I'm trying to think of his name, Howard, his name's right there, Howard Nyland Herbakaskoski. When he enrolled in 1948, these were the props that Chavez gave him. And he hung on to them all these years, and last year he donated them to the museum.
That's so awesome.
The type of magic that they taught was the manipulation, pulling cards out of the air, making them disappear. The same with balls, multiplying balls, coins, things like that. It was a very, very stylized type of magic. If you see somebody perform that went through the class, you'll recognize them instantly because everybody does exactly the same moves.
All right.
Invented in 1921 by a guy named P.T. Selbit over in England. The interesting thing to me about this is this was actually the first instance where women became assistants on the stage. Prior to this, men were the assistants.
Really? I always wondered how they do that one. That one is always puzzling me. How they do that? I'm like, that just.
This is called a thin sawing. This is much thinner than the one that Selbit invented back in the day.
Am I crawling there, Rob? I'm gonna see if I can saw you in half.
There are actually a number of different ways to do the trick and a number of different methods for creating the illusion.
I mean, I've always seen that one. I was like, how the heck do they do that? I'm like, especially when she put her feet in there and they spread her butt and their feet are moving that way. I'm like, wait a minute. It's just incredible. Of course, that's this mystery, man.
Oh, absolutely. This is our blood and guts corner. You can see that. We have that is the largest magic guillotine in existence. It was actually designed and built by a local craftsman, Philip Haggerty, good friend of mine. Bob asked me to do it. And it was an operational guillotine for a long time. I have a video of Bob showing it to somebody of actually putting a visitor's head in there. But Bob eventually had it decommissioned for two reasons. One, the shock absorbers in there were starting to age and he didn't trust them anymore.
Right.
And two, Bob decided that, we're here to educate and entertain, not to scare the crap out of people. And that was a very, very scary thing. And that blade comes down, it weighs about 40 pounds.
Now, has there ever been any accidents with these where actually somebody almost did get cut in half?
Not with this particular type of prop. There is a video out there called Tragic Magic, narrated by a good friend of mine, Joshua J., young guy, kid, that talks about all of the accidents in magic. And there have been many.
Or suits.
Teller has been to the museum here many times.
Really?
If I had to name the five most knowledgeable men in magic, Teller would be on the list.
Yeah. Even though he don't talk, yeah.
He really knows his stuff. And anytime he wants to learn about a new magic trick, he wants to know everything there is to know about it. And we have the resources here. So he's been here many times. Used to stay with Bob.
Well, that's similar to Roy, isn't it?
Yep, Senor Ray.
Yep.
He died in 2018.
Yep. I think both of them are dead now, aren't they?
Both.
This-
They both did that, though, I think.
Yeah, they were flashy. Senor Ray was called the Liberace of magic. He was very, very
Leave it to the experts. I don't know nothing.
Well, here's one you might know. Doug Henning. Doug Henning was famous back in the 70s. He was the hippie magician. Long hair.
Oh, I remember him.
Flamboyantly.
Yes.
Wow.
This was his zigzag effect. He actually did this on TV. And this is a good example of not restoring it. We put this under glass because the paint is just falling right off.
Yeah, because they don't want to restore it, do they?
We really don't.
No.
Just leave it the way it
But
is.
it was
Original.
a TV prop, and it was never meant to last this long.
Zigzag girl.
Yeah, that's one of the more famous illusions. You put
Yeah.
the girl in there, and that center part goes all the way to the left.
Yeah, I've seen all kinds of versions of that.
Yeah.
It's,
You can see it's broken into 3 spots, her legs, her middle, and her head. She'd go in there, they'd close up all 3 spots, he'd say his magic words. He'd open up the head, and you could see her head there. He'd open up the feet, and you could see her feet there. But when you open up the middle, there's nothing.
nothing there.
The girl with no middle.
I think I've seen how
Harry-
it's done before. But
So
I'm not
this
gonna
this
say
was a
anything.
Harry Blackstone Senior prop.
Yes. We have other ones. We have one over in the archives, built by a guy named Dorney.
Wow.
This is a video that normally runs during business. It was written in 1584 by Reginald Scott. It's called The Discovery of Witchcraft. It was not written as a treatise on magic. It was actually written to discourage people from killing witches. Right? His whole thing was, they're just doing tricks. Here's how they do these tricks. Stop killing them. Came out in 1584. 2 years later, King James, the same one who sponsored the Bible, came into power. And he very much believed in witchery. In fact, he wrote a big book called Demonology. So he ordered that all of these be burnt, which makes it a fairly rare book
Right.
today. This is a first edition copy of it. You look that up on the internet, it's worth about $75,000.
Wow. I'm backing up. Because I ain't got that kind of money.
Interestingly enough, he had them all burnt. I don't think it's ever been out of print since then. You can actually buy them on Amazon right now.
Newer
They're
ones.
just, yeah, they're just not first edition.
And this is the only old one? Is the only one
Original.
left? Or
Oh, no,
is
there's-
there others found?
Yeah, there's probably 100
Okay.
of them out there, but not much more than that.
That's so fast.
I'll tell you, it's highly unlikely that the punch caused the appendix to burst. It's much more likely, and this is kind of my personal opinion, that he was in pain from the appendix, but he attributed it to being hit. So
Right.
he didn't get help in time.
I think they did talk about that. They said even before he was performing, you know, that he wasn't feeling.
Yeah, his final
Well-
performance here at Garrick Theater, he was running 104-degree temperature. Got through the show. It probably was not his best show ever. And then they rushed him to the hospital where they diagnosed it as a burst appendicitis. He was there about a week, 2 operations, and as I say, died about a little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Halloween.
Oh, wow, I've never heard of this. Houdini Monopoly. Look at that. I've
It's
never heard
actually
of that.
fairly new. They just came out with it.
Oh, they just recently came out with
Yeah,
that?
just a year or 2 ago.
You can't escape the fun.
Every Saturday during our open season, from April through November, every Saturday at 1 o'clock, a magician from somewhere comes in and performs there.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Free admission, free with your paid admission.
That's awesome.
You'll have to excuse some of the clutter around here. We are closed and they are moving things around.
It's a winter time.
Yeah. This is a brand new exhibit. We opened it up last spring. June Horowitz. She was 104 years old in that picture. She took there with me. She was the first woman president of the International Brotherhood of Magicians.
Oh.
There is a ring, which is the local clubs. That's what the IBM calls rings, named after her up in Grand Rapids.
That's cool.
She kind of broke the glass ceiling for women in magic. When she was a young woman, she would go to the magic conventions, and when she'd get to the door, the guy would say, "Oh, the women's stuff is down the hall." So she had that button over there to the far left, Meg. Said, "I'm not a lady, I'm a magician." So they started letting her in.
Yeah, because most of them, they consider them just the assistants and stuff like
Exactly.
that. Nowadays, there's all kinds of women in magic.
A lot more than there ever was before. Look at this.
That is awesome.
Carter the Great. That's cool.
Oh, I love that. That's really awesome.
These plaques on the wall here behind the desk, this is every year for the last 50, I think this is the 51st year. We have Michigan Magic Day, it's a regional conference, and this is the Hall of Fame. These are people who have been, for one reason or another, instrumental in magic in Michigan. Some of those are incredibly famous. Kevin James, Jeff Hobson. These are people who are playing Vegas and LA even as we speak.
Wow.
Some of them are not so famous. My name's on there.
Well, we consider you famous.
Thank you.
Magic on the radio.
But he was what today we would call a mentalist. He would read people's minds, tell them about their future and their past. And he had a studio audience, so it worked out fairly well on the radio. And like I said, he did it for a very long time, almost 20 years. Had a TV show in the early 50s that lasted a couple of years. If you ask Bob Lund, who started the museum here, who the best magician in the world was, he would have told you it was Joseph Dunninger, simply because a lot of people believed that he could do what he was pretending to do.
What are these masks down here? Death masks, or?
They're part of an act from John Mulholland, who was a very famous magician back in those days.
There's the classic white gloves. Wow. This is just incredible.
These are all original paintings and lithographs. Over here we have a commercial cabinet. As I said, Bob collected anything and everything. Tide or Kellogg's came out with magic on the thing. Bob collected. Yep.
Or is that just
No, free magic trick for
three magic trick from Tide?
Yep.
The stain disappeared.
Lots and lots of cereal.
Oh, yeah, cereal.
Ling Su performed primarily in Europe. He was incredibly famous for about 20 years. He was one of the best known performers. Never spoke a word of English on stage. In fact, when journalists would come to interview him, because he was famous, and there was a lot of those, he would bring an interpreter along. In 1918, April 1918, he was on stage performing a trick that he didn't do all the time, but he did it occasionally. It was called the bully catch.
Mm-hmm.
He would invite a couple of guys up out of the audience, 3 of them, give them flintlock rifles. They would mark the bullet, put it in there, fire it at him across the stage, and he would catch it on a little plate. Something went wrong. He caught it in his chest instead.
Ooh.
Got shot right in the chest. And he spoke the only words that Chung Ling Soo ever said on stage. My God, something's wrong, close the curtains. In perfect English.
Right.
Wow.
Find out he wasn't really Asian.
Yeah, he was not Asian.
He
His name
wasn't
was
Asian at all.
His name was Billy Robinson from Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I've heard of that one. He would.
He worked with some of the most famous magicians in America, and he performed a little bit, but he was never very good at it. He didn't have the stage persona. He didn't have the personality for it.
And that's when he came up with this.
This is Harry Blackstone's scene. He's near and dear to my heart because I live in Colon. In 1926, Blackstone moved to Colon, Michigan. Back in those days, he was a touring magician. They would tour during about 9 months out of the year. During the summer, they would lay over in Colon. Back then, the performing venues that they had were not air conditioned, so they very rarely performed during the summer. Instead, they'd come to Colon, they would rebuild their props, rehearse new routines, things like that.
That's beautiful.
This is called a palatine. Of course, it goes back to Roman, Grecian times. It's how royalty were carted around. Four burly guys would get on each corner, and royalty would get inside, and they'd cart them all over the city. Well, they turned it into a magic trick. Four guys would bring it out on stage. Because it was raised, you could see that there was nothing under it. Blackstone would open up the curtains. You can see there's a little cutout in the back. He'd open that up, walk around behind it, stick his hand and his head in there to show you that it's completely empty. And he'd put the inset back on, come out here, close the curtains, say his magic word, make a magic gesture, and when he opened it up, four beautiful women would pop out of there.
Wow.
Usually without a whole lot of clothes on.
I wish I could do that.
Right?
I've opened and closed those curtains 100 times.
It never happens. I'm sure your wife will keep you away from that, huh?
I'm single.
That's awesome.
Because of that. Blackstone had all of his cases painted orange. They would travel all over the country, and they were very often in venues, stages and what have you, with other performers. He says if it's orange, it belongs to us, put it on our tray.
Wow.
Made it very easy to
know
what. Pete Baton was Harry Blackstone's brother, a couple of years younger. They had performed together as teenagers, but it became very evident very quickly that Harry was the stage presence. He really knew how to handle himself on the stage. Pete became the stage manager. This is his tool chest. It has everything in here that he needed to keep the show running while they were on the road. 540 pounds, and this went everywhere they went. Still has all of his original tools, all of his original parts.
That is so cool.
Needles, and he would swallow some thread, and then he would regurgitate them on the thread. The fascinating thing to me is that those needles there are Harry Houdini's needles.
Oh, they're right there in the box.
They probably have Harry Houdini's DNA.
Wow. How cool is that?
Need to clone them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there, that's his needles.
The needles are right there in that box that he did this trick with right here.
And are those the keys to the milk can right there?
No, those are the keys to the handcuffs.
The handcuffs, okay.
Oh, wait a minute. You're talking about
Right there on top of the book.
Yes, those are the keys to
The milk can?
the
Okay.
That's cool. The keys to the milk can.
We used to have handcuffs and stuff in there. It looks like they've moved them out.
Ah, this is a fascinating stuff. picture of this, I think.
Actually, any of like he's saying
His daughter's, his son,
This was a prop used in some way by Harry Blackstone,
has a couple of daughters, Bellamy.
and they don't know a whole much about it. So if anybody in the comments knows anything about Harry Blackstone and this cross, leave me a comment below. I definitely would appreciate it.
You wonder whatever happened to their family.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, come on, like they was talking all the time about fathers. Are their families? It seemed like they would be, like, you know, they're like, they would have, like, people from their family show up, sure, you know, and that's why one of those, you know, on the show.
Are these all original?
These are all original posters.
Wow.
Facsimiles or reproductions.
All original magic posters.
This is incredible. And this is really just a small part of Bob's collection. Over at the archives, he has thousands more posters. We try to rotate them in. We don't have enough walls for them.
Now this cannon here, is that the one where they used to shoot it into the guy's belly? Or the
Exactly.
Cannonball?
Exactly.
That's what I thought. They used to shoot it into the guy's belly. It was a big fat, you know, kind of a fat guy. And he was like, they always show him, and he's like, dang. Is that the exact one, or is it,
As far as I
another
know,
version of
I
it?
don't know a great deal about that one.
I know a little bit about magic. Now, when did the top hat come into the?
Well, actually, Robert-Houdin was the one who.
Well, he's the one that
Yeah,
started
he's
that.
the one who started dressing like what we think of as a magician today.
Right.
And of course, back in the 1800s, everybody wore top hats.
And when did the rabbit come out of the hat? Was he done, or?
I don't know. Harry Blackstone Sr. was very, very famous for rabbits. He gave away tens of thousands of rabbits.
So they don't know who started that.
Don't know who started taking it out of that hat.
Be interesting to find out who. You know. I'm sure there's probably so many magicians out there that. And what's the American flag? What's with the American flag? What was that for? You don't know? During the 19 years? And that one where they put the bird, the bird shows up in there? Or?
Probably. I'm not sure. This is, like I said, this isn't normally up here. This is brand new stuff.
More. Do you have anything from like P.T. Barnum or anything here?
Well, no, P.T. Barnum wasn't really a magician. He was more of a
Well,
showman.
yeah, that's because it's showing the thing. Yeah, he does, had some kind of magic in his shows, I think. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
I just wondered maybe if they had anything.
No, not that I'm aware of.
How about Harry Anderson?
We have some of Harry's books over to the archives. Harry's been here before. We might have a poster or two of it. I'm not aware of.
Neil Patrick Harris ever been here?
Who?
Neil Patrick Harris?
He's not been here. No.
I know he's just like, isn't he like the leader of the magic?
He was. That was a couple of years ago. They elect a new president of the Magic Castle every year. There are actually many, many, many Hollywood stars who are either interested, either interested in magic or were a magician at one time. Johnny Carson started out as a magician.
Really? I never looked that one.
That's why when he had the Tonight Show, you would see magicians on there all the time. He was a very nice magician. In fact, that's where Harry Anderson really got his start. Also a band leader, and that's what he's best known for. I knew his son, Bill Watson, and Bill did a little bit of magic, but that was not his career by any means.
Wow. He was from Jackson, Michigan.
Yeah, moved to, his parents died, he moved to Colon when he was 7 years old, which would have been about 1903.
Oh, there's a poster up there, St. Favour Roy. The one I thought was that coat. See, that's what I'm saying. You see why I thought that was his coat. I mean, that's basically kind of the same thing he's wearing right there.
They were very flashy.
You know. See, they're both about dead, aren't they? Don't they both die? I thought they both died.
No, they're both alive.
I thought one died.
No, he was mauled,
He got mauled.
but he
I thought
lived.
one of them died just recently.
Nope.
I saw them in Vegas about 10 years ago. They were being honored by a magician.
I thought they died.
Those are figurines that Bob had built of famous magicians that he liked.
Wow.
Oh, is that the poster over there of Harry Houdini's Chinese torture chamber?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
They say where he's hanging upside down.
It's obviously not American. But yes, that's definitely the water torture Chinese torture chamber.
Yeah.
They recently, which is a related.
We got the one and only David Copperfield signed picture here.
He did resemble him.
Yeah.
That's why he did that.
Guys, we gotta thank our host, our magnificent host, Ron Cornell, for showing us this place.
I'll show you how this works. This is an old illusion. It's clear back to Ling. I'm going to turn it on, and you're going to stare right at the center. Don't take your eyes off the center of the Takes about 30 seconds for your eyes to become acclimated to it. Stare right at the center.
Oh, that's wicked.
Don't take your eyes off the center. You're not going to see it through your camera. You have to stare right at the center of it. And start counting backwards. 10,
10, 9, 8, 7,
8, 7,
6,
6,
5, 4,
5,
3,
4,
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. Look at my head.
Oh!
What?
He's flexing. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell it in the camera. He says you can't do it in the camera.
Does not work.
But you can
That's
flex.
crazy.
His face was like flexing.
That was weird.
Oh! That was
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's an optical illusion. Your eyes
Ooh,
become
even though I'm looking
Wow.
at it now, you can see it's still kind of going.
See, it still looks like it's moving.
Right, that's what I said. It's still, to me, it looks like it's still moving. Yeah, but your face was just kind of going, like, whoa. It's kind of like that one trick.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are ever in Marshall, Michigan, you definitely got to come to the American Museum of Magic. Our host, Ron Cornell, was awesome. And you can definitely got the Houdini. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Love this. Talk to you guys soon. Hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at ManMichigander. Follow me on Facebook at Fans of Michigander Man. And if you like what you guys see, hit me up on my Patreon. I have a merch store. PayPal, all those will be in the description below, the links below, guys. So I love you guys. Peace.